Hello, welcome to week 17 in the embassy compound of Libra. I just wanted to show that I'm using Sky Safari and I screwed up and I lost the solar thing for this for Stellarium. Whoop! So we're gonna get into that right off the bat. I'll bring it up where you can actually see it though. Yeah, so right there, Venus and Mars in Leo, but Sun is still back, not quite halfway between Gemini and Cancer, so I don't count it as being quite inside Cancer yet. I'm going to give it another few days, I think. That's how, depending on, but Sky Safari gives me the Pluto position when Stellarium doesn't. They abandoned Pluto, right? So far as I can find. I go to where it should be and there's nothing there. Mercury still very much in Gemini. Very much in Gemini. There's Taurus. All right. Uranus is still down in Aries. So, we're good. Excellent. Okay. So here we are back, and I've got a ruler out because in a moment, but first, so here we had Venus supposed to be hitting Leo on the 17th, supposed to be, according to the ephemeris I was using, but of course by the 13th it was already there, so I've drawn a line. And same with Mars. Mars was actually supposed to get there later on the 21st, according to that ephemeris, so you can see how, at some point you have to let go of, but this is like a whole week's difference. So really, I think what's mostly fun is just even if it's wrong, just to be keeping track and charting and all that stuff. And I don't know if we'll actually be able ever to set, because nothing, again, any system we use that uses 30 degrees equal divisions amongst the signs is going to be, it's going to do this to us because it's not accurate. Taurus is not the same 30 degrees as Aries. So I just put a line. It's like, no, on the 13th, they were both pretty much neck and neck at Leo. And then the Sun, of course, not hitting Cancer today. Today's Friday that I'm recording this. I was ready to record this actually on Wednesday, but I'm cramming with my beginning of drawing instruction material, launching a campaign for that, and so I gave myself a little leeway to lose my mind over that for a bit. So here I am today with this, and then I did a phenomenal house reading for Leo. Well done, Leo. But then we have the full moon. So I'm going to say the Sun is going to hit sometime around the same where Mars was going to hit. Which begs the question, did I screw up? No. So what's interesting, we'll have the full moon in Aquarius coming up this coming week. And with the air energy that we're in, to see how that affects things. And then Mercury is supposed to be hitting Cancer, but Mercury's got a ways to go, I think, but we'll find out. We'll see. And then, of course, again, Lionsgate portal opening somewhere around the 26th and peaking on the 8th and then closing off on the 12th or 13th or so. But yeah, I'm finding I'm actually really enjoying. KRS Astrology said in his Scorpio, now I have to correct, he's pretty accurate with the Scorpio rising description from a few years back, but he said Scorpio is supposed to enjoy the balance of Libra season, Libra energy, and I'm just closing out my final week of my personal Libra house placements, and it's been a month, it's been several weeks at least. It's been 2 to 3 weeks, I want to say 3 weeks, 2.5, let's split the difference, 2.5 weeks of being early and on time for everything. They just want me to experience that, so they're making it happen. And the feeling of control. Now, what helped was also in Pisces' house of getting everything organized and ship-shape. Absolutely. So Pisces and Libra, I find, work together extremely well. So I brought these sheets back because I'm doing a little bit of a prediction based on the fact that I noticed, oh, I got the wrong, that the first 3 houses we've gone through in the calendar, while we're doing 8, 4, and 12, and now 7, we went through 1, 2, 3, and now we're in 4, right? Because we did it in Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer season. And I found that in their houses, when we hit that overlap of those 5 to 6 days, based on my calibrations of the charts, between the tropical and the sidereal, it's prime for actually looking after first house concerns, second house concerns, third house concerns. I was wrong when I said Gemini would be a good time for starting a project. That would be more to do with first house. Launching is what I mean to say. That's what I'm going to change it to. So given that that all proved to be true, and well, what I'm going to do is take a bit of initiative here, and for now that we're in the overlap days right now, fourth house guidance, giving it or getting it. I have this particular author who is acted very much, not unknowingly, she doesn't know it, but she's very much been like a spirit guide to me, except that she's still here. And I've held off because I'm worried that if I write to her, I'm gonna like kill her off, right? she's in her 80s. Tremendous person, Molly Parkin, Welsh, and I didn't know. I've been working on a sex comedy novel series that popped into my head. It's psychic co-writing. I've been working on it since 2016, and they've had me just everywhere gathering all kinds of ingredients together. It's been breaking me, as many of the things they give me break me. But there wasn't much to go on. I didn't have any influences. I have lots of authors in my life, but she actually wrote sex comedy novels, and they made sure I came across her. And so I think what I'm going to do is, I've been wanting to write a letter to her about the whole project, just to entertain her. And one of her close friends is also someone that's connected with me. I've got her in the photo diary, Anita Pallenberg, who was in the Barbarella film, who's a phenomenal Italian-German model, and was, Mick Jagger. She had her kids with Mick Jagger. But she's just amazing, and I knew, like, my main character is very much, I had it all. I hadn't seen Barbarella, and then a couple of years ago I finally watched it, and like, oh my god, this is my main character, except that my main character has the underlying knowledge of the other character in Barbarella, Anita Pallenberg's character, not just Jane Fonda's character. So she's like a combination of the two. But it turns out that Anita was actually good friends with Molly Parkin, and got her a house, gave her a house to live in London when Molly was homeless with her daughters, and the house was haunted, and Molly had to contend with all these ghosts. So, that's what I want to do. So that's what I'm going to do, because take initiative. Start applying what we're picking up, what we're learning in all of this, and start using it. Because now that we were dealing with gifts in the water story, now that we're in the air story, we're dealing with collaborations. I'm not saying I'm going to try and collaborate with her. I do have the collaboration. I've got to go get back into the Domestica course, because Sean Levine has the whole plan. Like, he said, not the whole plan. He says he wants me to write the story behind the story as a short story. And that is all tied to that book, right? So I can work the letter to Molly Parkin into going back into this course, completing this course with Sean Levine, who also writes sex novels, in addition to all of his phenomenal writing journals and everything like that he creates for other people to help them with their writing, plus his novels and his short stories. So it's all coming together. But in 7 in Libra, we're talking about 7s of transformation, right? And then we have the 3 of third house, which will be manifestations. And then we have 11 converting to a 2, which will be partnerships, right? Working together. So that's all that. Now, for Libra, the constellation, which is what we're at this week, there are, now I've got only in pencil here, and that's why I've got the ruler to highlight. There are at least 4 different patterns for the Libra constellation, is what I found out. So if you got confused at all by it looking this way, that's because I didn't realize yet that there are 4 or more ways to connect the dots in Libra. So this is another way where they connect this one, they bypass this one. And then, actually they don't. It goes like this, and then it goes like this. I'm gonna hold it up to the camera. I've got images of them. And then I'm gonna fix the focus. We're gonna remember that. Okay, now it's a very faint constellation. So what you do is it actually shares, like there's the Shubha from Scorpius, right? And it carries the 3 stars. I've only got the 1 here, but there is a Scorpii there. It carries the 3, the claw, right, of Scorpius. It connects with that, right? But you have there, and I believe that Libra, the star names connect to their history as being part of Scorpius once upon a time. So here are the different patterns. I get this from Learn the Sky again. She's very consistent. And I've also found in printing, I get inconsistent printing when I've touched the paper too much beforehand. I've got fingerprints. I'm like, okay, it came out cloudy, and that's because I'm looking at fingerprints. But here are the different patterns. And here's where we're going to dovetail with something I found out about Libra historically, going back to Egypt. But we're going to need to make sense of what Amenta is. And that is the name of heaven. Now, 7 also means heaven. And that takes us down a road that I need to finish exploring in the name of the 7, which is the West African names for Mother Earth, their god, Mother Earth. And they get into this one guy that I follow because of Mami Wata. He is helping the cause for Mami Wata, for Mama. I gotta get it right. Okay, this is who I reference. Sybil's the first prophetess of Mami Wata, the theft of African prophecy by the Catholic Church and a bunch of others, right? Including Judaism. Let's see if I can get that. Okay, now Mama Zogbe is the author. All right. And thanks to her work, and thanks to the man, Natural Tahuti, he helps her out. He came on board. He came on board to make sure there is a masculine voice supporting the research and the knowledge of the true history that underlies all the other faces, the European faces and names for the original Mother Earth, so far as described and understood in Africa, especially Western Africa. Now here he points out the 7, the Masonic 7, and he actually, because he studies the circle and the 7, it's a repeating. If you go to this video, but so the 7, she is the 7. the 7 heads of, you know, 7-headed serpent and everything like that. And these would actually be her legs and her G spot. It's the clitoris, and she is the great, and this is of course the great egg, right? And so that just makes, after all my years of dealing and getting into all the stuff that I'd rather not get into, if I could spend my time on other things, I would, but that just is like the cherry on top, literally. So that's the rabbit hole I'm going down there. But okay, enough of the phone, but I'll switch over for a second to this page, because up here I'll reference blooming woman. Okay. The video is Maat, star sign, Egyptian goddess, the original Libra. Now I would say we're going to go back even before Maat, right? Because that we're getting back to the 7. Now, but it's because of this wonderful woman and her work. Okay. And here we have, right, the scale. Mati is the scale. Mati means balance. It literally translates into balance. So it is the scale. And Maat is the personification, right? The goddess Maat. She's the balancer. Other notes. Hall of Amenta is going to be the hall of heaven. 7 equals heaven. Heaven means 7. Libra's held and bound by their attachments, just as a side note. But Amenta, so she introduces to me through these studies the name Amenta as the name of heaven. Now, and that is in Egypt, in Kemet. We should say Kemet is what we should say, right? So here we come back to, now that's, then that got me into Egyptian numerology, which will be the basis for, of course, Kabbalah numerology, right? But if we come back to this, right? This is the hieroglyph for heaven, Amenta. What's it look like? One shorter, one longer. That looks like a thing to me. That looks like a thing to me. So then up here, there was another, I need to credit another video, The Origin of the Constellation of Libra by Alden Morris, who's been helpful several times. See how even here, now I matched up the ecliptic. This is the path of the sun. Path of the sun. But see how the handle and the crossbars are angled differently along according to, I'll get it back where you can see both together. So those are the 2 different patterns used even then, right? Because same, I aligned the ecliptic, right? And one's going slightly against and one's going parallel to, right? So it's just about, so what I did, here's the ecliptic that I put through according to the actual star names. And so here are alternate paths that I've patterns that I've penciled in, right? There and there. And so then I'd need to add Tau Librae, and possibly, I'm not sure, but I think they only have classifications of HD numbers and letters in the alternate 2 stars, if that is, you know, so we need to build that out. But the other thing that caught my attention was this concept of balance, right? Of course. And he used this image that caught my eye between sun and the moon and balancing solar and lunar, right? And so that got me thinking about what I say about dark and light based on my drawing lessons, because I came across this image of a tarot card of her, or a picture of her, and I can't find it anywhere. I'd love to have it. But where she's balancing night and day, right? But we're equating here we go, equating the light with good and the dark with bad. And here's my video, a reading that came through that I needed to express that in, that I was asked to express it in. Because dark and light, as a drawer and a drawing instructor, dark and light exist on a spectrum and do not equate to good and evil, right? And that's a huge ongoing, that's something I will always stand on. I've stood on it for, well, at least over 12 years now, 13, 14 years. Yep, and I'll stay there. I'll stay there. I'll stay true to that. So it's very interesting that when this concept, because this is different from that. This is about balancing them. And this is about imbalance. This is about, you want the feather. You do not want to be heavier than the feather, or you're going to not go to heaven, right? You're not going to go to, what did I say? Okay, anyway. But these are two different concepts. Two different concepts. This is the strength card as well. So, there's a whole world to get into there in terms of what went on with this whole Libra situation. And the concept of justice, the concept of good and bad, the concept of balance versus, you know, and the lunar and the solar, the dark and the light, right? And that is uniquely a problem for Libra to solve, because one stays true to the balance, and one looks for the imbalance. You want to be lighter, but as in weighing less. So now that made me think of something that I wanted to go get, but I don't think I'll worry about it for now. I'll carry on. So I'll make my notes about that. And there's not really anything so far that I've found. The most interesting thing is how many different variations there are for this constellation. The stars are faint. Apparently there aren't any galaxies, or there are galaxies, but they're so far that you actually can't see them. But that in itself is interesting enough as well, that things are so distant and light around Libra. So really, there were other things I came into. There's Venus-related information that I came into because I went on down a rabbit hole for my drawing stuff, and I came across the guy who discovered, because of the drawing information, I came across the guy that discovered Venus's, what do I want to say, atmosphere. And I'll take a moment to find him. Okay, this is the guy. Mikhail Lomonosov. Forgive me. That's my best. Okay, because I was looking up, I wanted to get back. Damn it, all the heck. I wanted to get back to conservation of mass theory. And so I was back with Lavoisier. I made a bunch of discoveries, and I'll spare you a lot of them, but I came across an Elizabeth Fulham. She needs to be given a tremendous amount of credit for solving things about air, other things. I'm gonna get it wrong, but she it's not that long ago that we didn't actually know about oxygen. So, which is, you know, a bit of perspective to have on things. But when we go back to Lomonosov, he was an astronomer amongst many, many things. He is probably, he seems to be one of the biggest deals in Russian science ever. But he is the one who discovered appreciate the atmosphere of Venus during his observation of the transit of Venus of 1761 in a small observatory near his house in St. Petersburg. So in June 2012, a group of astronomers carried out experimental reconstruction of his discovery of Venusian atmosphere with antique refractors during the transit of Venus of 2012. And they concluded that his telescope was fully adequate to the task of detecting the arc of light around Venus off the sun's disk during ingress or egress if proper experimental techniques, as described by Lomonosov in his 1761 paper, are employed. And here he did drawings. So, another thing that I came across that I won't... Now, was it actually him? Redshift. The concept of... Not the concept, the reality of redshift. And sometimes there's just too much information. I'm trying to remember if he's connected to that or not. But redshift, an increase in the wavelength and corresponding decrease in the frequency and photon energy of electromagnetic radiation, such as light. Okay. And then the opposite is blue shift. And it has everything to do with charting stars and their colors based on their movements. And I think I'll leave that there for the science today, because there's a heck of a lot more. But it had everything to do with going into my drawing stuff. And then I ended up back with astrology and astronomy. And we all know how much astronomy needs astrology. So, in fact, I would be very holistic about the whole thing and not even. So, I think that's where we're at for this week. Next week is going to be how Libra hits your chart specifically. And I will come, and then I'll add to that. I'll finish up the research here on her, because I wear, can I show it? No, I'll put it in the photo diary is what I'll do. I wear an ankh every day with blue on it. And I've got blue is the color that all my murder victims come to me through. Why am I saying that? Because the blue of Ma'at, tied to Ma'at. And so, Ma'at, I should say. And of course, then we have the real person behind Ma'at. Because Ma'at is a personification, chances are good, right? That's my understanding from, I did get a book from a scholar on the Book of the Dead, which is where the 42 principles of Ma'at, that's where the 10 commandments come from. And he said that the priests, it's a priestly thing, right? So they set up a a system you need to go through, right, to graduate from life. And then they create the personification, the persona of Ma'at, in order to, push these 42 principles into the emotional, realm of, well, we'll say mind control, or social engineering, right? But they know that they need something true to, it's just like the church knows it needs Jesus, right, to sell itself or to force itself. It needs the real thing to push, to carry the real magic, to push the rest of the crap around it. Okay, so yeah, so next week, hopefully this has been a little bit informative in ways that you didn't even expect, about, because I did look up, the Greek references, and the Roman, Libra would be the Roman name, but that is so what it all took me back to what's underneath all of that. It took me back to what's underneath. Well, of course, the traditional stuff won't take you back, but this is the real stuff. And then the European stuff, if we go back to the guy that was highlighting the compass and the square and compass symbol, right? He does excellent work on behalf, well, Mama Zogbe does the excellent work, and he helps spread it. So between the two of them, then getting back into who this person actually is. So Kali as, right? Who are we really, 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 really working with and talking to? What's the truth? What's the truth in the house of Libra? Awesome. Okay. I'll be back. Much love. Thank you.